First, let's just deal with the news of the day. Do you support the government's proposal for a national service?
They don't support it either. It's a joke, isn't it? I mean, look, what you do, you get a focus group of half a dozen Reform voters in a room, and the chairman says, now, what about national service? Oh, I think it's a very good idea. The rest say, yeah, actually, not a bad idea. Oh, policy. So, I mean, look, when you're a weak leader, and Sunak is not a leader in any way at all, you're a follower. So you follow what the focus groups say, and you say, by doing this, I can attack the Reform vote. That's what it's all about. And look, it's totally impractical. The army has shrunk from 100,000 to 75,000 in 14 years of conservatism. And most interestingly, we have a growing number of young people in this country who do not subscribe to British values, in fact, loathe much of what we stand for. So what do you do?
Who are we talking about there?
Oh, I think we see them on the streets of London every Saturday.
What do they look like? Oh, we're talking about...
What do they look like?
Are we talking about Muslims here?
We are. And I'm afraid I found some of the recent surveys saying that 46% of British Muslims support Hamas, support a terrorist organisation that is prescribed in this country. So we've been, and what's interesting is that this Prime Minister is building up far more of that population than anybody before in history.
Well, this is very interesting, and we don't have that survey in front of us, but let's just unpick what you've just said. Are you sure you want to make the blanket accusation that you've just made that Muslims are somehow less patriotic than other British people? Because those people on those demonstrations are British.
Did you watch the recent elections that took place up and down the country?
We don't know that, and we don't know they support Hamas. Would you like to revisit what you said at all?
Let's be clear. There is a growing population of people in this country, a lot of them very young, who have recently been voting for and electing candidates, right, up and down the country, in inner cities, who stand for a set of values that are completely, not only don't subscribe to our values, but in many cases are totally against our values. And the marches, there were some on those marches. Equally, there were lots of upper middle class girls called Jocasta on those marches as well, and I understand that, but we have to face the fact, and at some point, by 2029, the Labour Party will have to face the fact that they started a policy of irresponsible open-door immigration, but nobody in history has allowed more people in who are potentially going to fight against British values than Mr Sunak. And if you look at those figures last week, if you look at the sheer numbers that were coming in last week, you really have to ask yourself some questions.
Well, is this the thrust of the Reform campaign, that actually immigration means that our values are threatened, and particularly we are unhappy about Muslims? Because that is a pretty incendiary proposition.
We have never before seen anything like this. You think about West Indian immigration into Britain, the post-World War II.
I think of very little else.
West Indian immigration into Britain post-World War II. There were a lot of shared things there. Shared history, shared culture, shared religion in many cases. Most families that came could say one of their family had served with British forces in World War I, World War II, love of cricket. The list goes on, but there were commonalities. And, as you know with your previous job, the key to immigration is integration. If you get integration, it works. What we've done is, and this works on several levels. We've done...
I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to say two things.
Well, here's the difference.
No, I'm going to tell you something about the difference. First of all, you're right, I come from that stock. But let us remember that my stock, my ancestors, for the best part of 700 or 800 years, were Muslims until they were forcibly converted to Christians by slave owners. So when you talk about Muslims as hostile to British values, I've got to say, I don't really... Let me finish what I'm going to say. I don't really see how you arrive at that conclusion. And secondly, trying to say to me, actually, you guys are not really like these other guys. I mean, you and I have known each other a long time. Can you imagine how offensive that is to a British Muslim? Let me ask you to put yourself in the shoes of a British Muslim, and can you imagine how offensive that feels?
How many people from your community fail to speak English?
How many people?
From the West Indian community don't speak English.
We all speak English, but
Thank you.
actually so
Thank
do
you.
most
Thank you.
Indian
Thank
Muslims,
you.
so do
I can
pretty much
take
all
you.
Pakistani
I can
Muslims in
take
this
you.
country.
I can take you to streets in Oldham where virtually no one speaks English.
I've been there too.
All
But,
right.
but honestly, come on.
The point I'm
You're
making
not
is this.
serious.
I am not here to attack the religion of Islam, but I am here...
Well, you've just been doing it for 3 minutes.
No, I haven't. I'm telling you the alarming figures that have been coming out of these recent polls, particularly in the wake of what has happened on October the 7th and in Gaza, and we have a real problem here. We want...
All right.
I mean, firstly, all right, numbers on immigration need to be sensible, otherwise everyone's quality of life gets diminished. Diminished. Diminished in every way. Diminished because you can't get a GP appointment. Diminished because you can't travel anywhere without traffic jams. Diminished because getting on a housing ladder is impossible, because we now need to build one new dwelling every 2 minutes.
I want to get on to
and that's apart from...
I want to get on to politics, but I just want to be absolutely clear, and I want to give you the opportunity to be clear, because everything you've just said suggests that the Reform platform for this election is every problem you face is down to immigrants and in particular to Muslims. Is that really what you're saying?
No, actually, most people aren't yet affected by this, because the areas with anti-British values tend to be geographically, at the moment, very tightly concentrated. But they do pose a problem.
But you're not resiling from blaming that community.
I'm blaming elements of that community. I'm not blaming them, I'm stating a fact. All I'm doing is stating a fact. No one else dares tell the truth about this. On the broader question, the biggest single problem this country faces is the population explosion. And it will not be debated in this election. Why? Because Labour started it and the Tories accelerated it. And that has led to problems on a scale that are unimaginable.
Okay, I want to debate that. And let me start it talking to you about this way. Your flagship policy is zero immigration, net zero immigration, right? I talked to James Cleverly earlier on about the fact that net migration numbers are falling a bit.
No.
Well, I know the fact. Let me finish my... It's a fact.
No, I'm really sorry. Let's get this right.
They're falling a bit. They're falling by 10%.
They are not falling, and here's why. Last year's legal migration figures were 606,000 until they were revised later.
I know, they've gone up.
745.
You haven't let me finish my question.
You haven't let me finish my question. But it was the wrong premise.
No, I want to put some facts to you.
I just did to you.
Inward migration last year, end of 22, was 1.2 million.
Yeah.
Actually,
Staggering.
it hasn't fallen in 2023, and in that sense, you're correct.
Oh, thank you.
But what's interesting is who the migrants are. Now, why don't you have a look at this?
Yep.
Indians up to 47%, Nigerians up 907%. Now, the reason that has happened is look at the bottom figure. EU figures down 193%.
How does 75,000 equate to 250,000,
It's
141,000? So a tiny fraction.
Let me finish. Well, actually, if you go back further, the EU, the point is, European Union migrants left post-Brexit.
A few, a handful.
No, a lot more, actually. The point I really want to make is this. You are complaining about the people who you think don't share British values. You're identifying particular communities. And the point I want to make to you is that by the middle of the century, the white British proportion of population will be down below 2/3. That's the thing that I think you're worried about.
I didn't.
But this is.
I didn't say that.
Okay. The people who are.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay. The thing that you're worried about is your responsibility. You're the father of the policy that produced this.
No,
that made the EU migrants leave,
Trevor,
and increased the number of non-EU migrants.
Big load of cobblers I've ever heard in my life. What we did by leaving the European Union was to change a policy, which meant we discriminated against the rest of the world, often against talent, interestingly, in favour of an open door with the European Union. What Brexit did was give us back control of our own, by the way, we're not even discussing Dover, get us back control of our legal migration policy. What Boris Johnson chose to do was to set the bars and the levels at the lowest possible level. He also allowed, for example, students to bring dependents. Whether you have to bring your mum with you to go to a British university is beyond me.
But you might have to bring your wife and children if you're a postgraduate.
Well, I'm sorry, we haven't got room. You know, we've really got to start growing up on this. We haven't got room. We cannot go on. And it's unfair to put this population explosion, which you're very vividly showing on the screen, on the British
Because it's a
people.
fact. It's a fact.
Yeah, what's a fact?
It's a fact.
What is a fact?
It is the consequence of Brexit.
No, it's a consequence of government policy. You've got to.
Well, it only happened after Brexit.
Because Johnson, despite the fact people like me publicly warned, if you set the salary thresholds at this level, there was another massive opening up in 2021. This is Conservative policy. And of course, there's no opposition to it because Labour dare not even debate the issue. This has been done by. If you want mass immigration, vote Conservative. If you want mass immigration, vote Labour. If you want a proper debate about why this is the most impactful policy on everyone's life in this country, then we're the people to talk to in reform.
Are you essentially denying that you have anything to do with the change in
100%.
immigration policy?
100. We said was...
Even though the point of your whole campaign was to put it under our control.
Yes.
Boris Johnson used it in whatever... You can argue about it, but...
No,
it was
you can't argue. Look at the figures.
It was your responsibility that put it in Boris Johnson's hands. He then used it in a particular way. Now, you might want...
No, I'm really sorry, but that is absolute rubbish. Getting back control of our own country means we can't blame the European Union.
Okay.
We can't blame anybody else. Those figures... This was done by a Conservative government, and they thought they'd get away with it.
OK, well, unfortunately, we haven't got all day to argue the toss on this, but I just want to ask you something about your own objectives in politics. You've decided you're not going to run yourself.
With regret. With regret. I had planned...
Why do you regret? What's wrong with it? Why didn't you run?
Because I had a plan.
Which is?
A 6-month plan to come back and campaign full-time for 6 months. The election was announced. It was a shock to me. It wrong-footed me. It's wrong-footed a lot of people, I'll be honest about that. And I took the view, I can't campaign around the country for the party or come on your show, do those things, if I've got to start from scratch, 6 weeks in one constituency. And that was the logic of what I chose. In
the end, either Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer is going to be in number 10. You've got to, at some point, choose one of them. In the last election...
Come off it!
And in the last election, you pulled your candidates against sitting Tories.
For a historic reason.
Which essentially meant the Tories got back in. Are you going to do something like that at the same time this year? In that case, is your aim to destroy the Conservative Party or to reform it?
The election's over. The election's over. I mean, by the way, isn't it the most boring start to a general election you've ever seen in your history? I
think you've come in to try to make it less boring this morning, haven't you?
I listened
But just deal with my question,
I listened to Sunak on the Today programme the other morning, and after 15, 17 minutes, I can't remember a single thing he said.
OK.
Sunak's all over the shop.
OK, but which one
Labour will win. Labour will win.
OK.
And there needs to be an opposition. And here's the problem. The Conservative Party will be in opposition, but they will not be the opposition. And that's the problem, and that's where reform comes in. It needs to win some seats, it will get millions of votes, and the current Conservative Party is not fit for purpose. It doesn't agree on anything. They'll actually hate each other more in opposition than they do in government, and I want to see the centre-right of British politics completely reshaped.